Welcome back to VBA Made Easy. In the last episode, we covered integrating Excel and PowerPoint. Today, we're going to start covering integrating Excel and Outlook. Because of the length of this project, I'm going to break this up into a couple of episodes, but what we're going to cover is adding appointments to Outlook, adding tasks to Outlook. We're going to create a monthly calendar for a given number of months. We're going to add U.S. federal holidays to that calendar. We're going to add birthdays from a list to that calendar. We're going to export it to PDF. We're going to cover sorting data in VBA and alternating between ascending and descending each time you run the code. Calculating years, months, and days between dates. Calculating the number of days from today to a given date. And adding a set number of years to a given date. So to start off, let's take a look at what we're trying to achieve. I have a list of birthdays here. I've got first name. I've got a hidden column that has a middle name in case I need that later. I've got a last name, and I've got a date of birth. I've got the age in years, months, and days of that person on today's date, and I've got the date of their next birthday. I've got their age on their next birthday, the number of days to their next birthday, and then their age in a given number of years, in this case 5, but if I change that to 7, I get how old that person is going to be in 7 years from today. I've got the birth month. I use the birth month to populate a pivot table that sits over here showing the number of birthdays in that month, and I've got a family name that I use for grouping those birthdays by family. On my custom ribbon, I have an Add Appointments button. If I click that, it's going to add appointments to Outlook. If I click on one of these birthdays, I see that there is a birthday, their date of birth, and which birthday it is. I've got a reminder set 2 weeks prior, and I've got a recurrence to have that recur every year on that date for the next 100 years. I've got a delete appointments button, which will go through and delete all of those out of there. So let's go ahead and do that. And I have an add tasks button. So the task does the same thing as the appointments, but if I go down here and I go to my to-do list, I have all of those birthdays with a 2-week prior reminder. I also have a delete tasks button. So I have a sort group on my ribbon. I can sort by next, which shows the next birthday to the furthest birthday away. If I click that again, I get that in reverse. I have a sort by age button that gives me youngest to oldest. If I click that again, I get oldest to youngest, and I have a sort by family button. If I click that, that sorts by family name, which is whatever I assigned in this field. Click that again, and it reverses that. I have a create calendar button. I have a start date for my calendar and a number of months. Let's make that 12. If I click create calendar, it's going to loop through. It's going to create one tab for each month. It's going to install the U.S. federal holidays on the right date, and it's going to put the birthdays for each person on my list in there. If I export that to PDF, I get a PDF file with this number of sheets that I set in my calendar that has the birthdays and the holidays in there. And then I have a delete calendar button that's going to delete all of those sheets out of there. So over the next couple of episodes, we'll cover how to do this, as well as how to make the selected cell highlight in yellow. And I don't know if you notice, when I sort, it ends up alternating bold and not bold on each row, and that changes each time to make sure that it stays in that format. So let's go ahead and jump into the code. Remember, I can do that by clicking the Developer tab and clicking the Visual Basic button, or I can hit Alt F11, which, if you forget the Alt F11, it's on the tooltip for that. So in the code, the first thing we're going to look at is the Outlook portion. So let's go into Mod Outlook. First thing I have is a sub named Open Outlook. The purpose of this sub is to check to see if Outlook is running. If it is, we're good. If it's not, we're going to run it. So I've dimmed Object Outlook as Outlook Application. I've dimmed Open App as variant, and I've got a Start, Pause, and Finish variants. I'm going to use those to run a timer to pause for a certain number of seconds to allow the shell command to run Outlook if it's not running. So the first thing I'm going to do in this sub is set my object outlook as get object. The first parameter is a path. I don't need that, and I'm setting it as outlook.application. Next, I'm checking if Outlook is running by using if object outlook is nothing. Object outlook is nothing, that means Outlook is not running, and then we'll go through, clear the error, set my pause timer to 5 seconds, start the timer. Next, I'm going to use the shell command to run Outlook. I'm using Office 2016, and so this is the path to my Outlook exe. If you're using a different version, you're going to have to change this line to match your file path. Then I'm going to start the timer, and I'm going to run a do events, and what do events does is releases the processor to do other things. So that's going to time, in this case, for 5 seconds to allow the shell command to complete, finish it, and we're done. So let's go ahead and run this. So we're setting object outlook equals get object. If object outlook is nothing, then clear the error, start my timer, and open Outlook. Do events just releases that, so it's going to loop, and we're done. If Outlook is running, it'll debug print Outlook is running down into the immediate window, and that's just for error trapping. Next thing I've got is a function. Function is appointment add Outlook. I've got several parameters that I'm passing to this. I've got a subject, a body, and a start date. All the other parameters I'm passing are optional. So I've got a duration in minutes, a reminder in minutes, a location, and then a Boolean for send invites and a string email. And I use that if I want to be able to send these appointments that I'm adding to Outlook to other people. We're not going to do that in this project, but it's there in case I need it for other projects. So the first thing I'm going to do is dim object app as new Outlook application, dim appointment as an appointment item, and recur pat as a recurrence pattern. I'm going to set my object app equals create object Outlook application, set my appointment as create item, and that type is OL appointment item. Next thing I'm going to do is check for my optional parameters. So if reminder minutes is null, meaning I didn't pass it, set my reminder minutes to 30 divided by 60 divided by 24, which is how you calculate 30 minutes. If my duration is null, meaning I didn't pass a value to that parameter, I set my duration to 60 divided by 60 divided by 24, which is how you calculate 60 minutes. Next, I'm using the with command on the object appointment. What with does is allow you to make changes or pass information to stuff on the object appointment without having to type object appointment each time. So if I go down here and I hit a dot, because it's after the with, it knows that I'm trying to use object appointment, and here are all the actions and parameters that I could use on that. So I'm setting my start equal to my start date, my end equal to my start date plus 1, because I want this to be an all-day event, and setting the all-day event option to true, setting my importance to high, setting the subject, and the same with the body. I'm setting the reminder set to true, meaning I want a reminder on this. I'm setting my location and my reminder minutes before start to the reminder minutes parameter. Setting the meeting status to OL meeting allows me to send that invitation if I decide I want to send it to other people. And I'm going to set my recur pat equals get recurrence pattern. And then using with again, I'm using with recurrence pattern. Set that to yearly. Occurrences is 100. So I doubt anybody's going to live to be 100. The pattern start date I set to the parameter, the start date that I passed. I'm going to end my with and then save that. If I passed a send invites, my required attendees becomes the string email, and I display rather than send that. Outlook gets a little wonky if you try to send stuff using code. There are ways around that, but I prefer to look at an email before it sends out of my system. So that is the function for adding an appointment. I have another function to delete appointments. Same concept. I am creating an Outlook object, identifying the namespace, which in most cases is going to be Mappy, and I'm setting my object appointment, in this case, to be the folder for my calendar. Next, I'm going to loop through the items in that calendar. I'm going from the folder items count to 1 step -1. So I'm starting at the high number and working my way back down. Because I'm going to delete, if I started at 1 and worked up to the count would change each time and it misses items, it doesn't delete them. If I start at the bottom, the high number, and work my way down to 1, it doesn't matter when I delete them. So I'm checking to see if my location is birthday, which is what I set the birthday to when I call this function. If it is, delete it. And then I'm setting that object appointment as the deleted item folders and doing the same thing, looping through the deleted item folders and deleting those out of there. I have a function to add tasks, which works basically the same way as the add appointments. But instead of object type being OL appointment item, it becomes task item, and I'm passing the start date, the due date, importance, subject, body, and I set the reminder to 15 minutes prior on this. And then I have a sub to do the same thing as the delete appointments. It's going to go through and delete any task that the subject is like birthday. So now how do we call those functions? We've got a sub named add birthday appointments. I've dimmed a couple of variants, one to loop through and one to actually pass the birthday. I've got a string subject, string last name, first name, date of birth is a date. I've got a string for my body, and then I've got year of the next birthday and age of the next birthday that I'll use further down. So I'm going to go to my birthdays sheet. I'm going to run the open Outlook to make sure Outlook is running, and I'm going to go through and delete all my birthday items. So I'm calling the appointment delete Outlook. Next, I'm going to loop through my range, which starts in A5. And if I offset 0 rows and 3 columns is greater than 0, meaning I have something in the birthday, I'm setting my last name equal to the 3rd column. That's A offset by 2 columns. My first name is what's in column A. My date of birth is in column 4, so I offset 3 columns. The year of the next birthday is equal to the year, and then I'm calling a next birthday function where I pass the month, day, current date. So let's go look at that next birthday function. So the next birthday, I'm passing a variant for the month, a variant for the date, and then an optional for my target date. I've got DT as date, string date as a string, and a Boolean is leap year. I use that to check if someone's birthday is on February 29th. We've got to do some different calculation. If my target date is nothing, set the target date equals to today, and if month equals 2 and day equals 29, then that's a person that was born on leap day. In that case, I set my day to 28. Next, I'm checking to see if that birthday has already passed by looking at the date value of month, day, and year for my target date. If it's less than the target date, then my next birthday equals the date value of month, day, and year target date plus 1. If it hasn't passed already, we use the target date. And now we're still in the February 29th portion. So if is leap year, and I'm passing the year of the next birthday, we'll go over the is leap year function in a minute. Then take my next birthday and add 1 day. If not, I'm doing the same thing. If it's not on February 29th, where if the birthday has passed, I make my next birthday equal to the month, day, and year plus 1. If it hasn't passed, it's the current year. So now let's look at the is leap year function. Is leap year, I pass a year as a variant, and I set up a temp Boolean to capture that. So if year mod 400 is equal to 0, then my temp is true. Else if the year mod 100 is equal to 0, it's false. Else if year mod 4 is equal to 0, it's true. If not, it's false. So if my year is evenly divisible by 400, it's true. If it's evenly divisible by 100, it is false. Or if the year is evenly divisible by 4, that's true. And evenly anything else is false. And then I set my is leap year equal to that temp boolean. So that's all that to calculate the year of the next birthday. Next, I'm going to use the age next birthday function, and we'll go over that in a second. And I'm going to set my age next birthday. I'm using the age on birthday year function, and I'm passing the date of birth and the year of the next birthday. So let's go look at that function. Age on next birthday, I'm passing my birth date and a year. So I'm going to look and find out how old will this person be if they were born on birth date, and the year is year. So I'm going to skip the leap year section and go birth date equals date value, month of the birth date / day of the birthday / year. And then for the age on birth year, I'm going to use the date diff function. I want that to return in years, and I'm passing the birth date and the birthday date. All that to get their age on their next birthday. Next, I'm going to populate my strings. So I want my string subject to be the word birthday with a dash, first name space last name, and then in parentheses, I want formatting their date of birth as day, month, year, in parentheses, and then the ordinal of their age on their next birthday. Let's talk about the ordinal function. I'm going to drop down to mod functions. The rules of engagement for ordinals, or the TH, ST, ND, RD. If it ends in 1, it becomes ST, 2 becomes ND, 3 becomes RD, unless it's 11, 12, or 13, or any other number, it becomes TH. So I'm passing the ordinal as my number, formatted to a comma separator with 0 decimals, and the ordinal ID. So let's write a quick sub to test that. Sub test ord dim I as variant for I equals 1000 to 1100. Debug print I comma ordinal I. Next, and if I run that, I get all of the ordinals with a comma separator. So 1081st, 1082nd, 1083rd, and you see that the 11th, 12th, and 13th follow the TH rule. So after we've populated all the strings, we're going to call the appointment add outlook function, set BD equals to appointment add function, passing the string subject, the body, the date of birth. 1440 is how many minutes are in a 24-hour day. That's setting the duration, and 1440 times 14 is 2 weeks to add that 2-week reminder. So let's go ahead and run through that code. Outlook opens up, stop at my breakpoint. So if my date of birth is greater than 0, set my first name, last name, date of birth, the year of the birthday, the age on the next birthday, and then set my subject equal to birthday, first name, last name, date of birth in parentheses, and the ordinal and the age on the next birthday, and then call that function. It's going to loop through the function, add the appointment, set the recurrence pattern, save it, and then skip over the send invites because I didn't pass that parameter, and that's going to run through. Let's go to Outlook, look at the calendar, and there's all the birthdays. So that's the first step in integrating Excel and Outlook. We'll cover the other functions in the next episode. Thank you for watching, and if you've learned something, I'd appreciate a thumbs up, and a subscription would help. Thank you, and we'll see you next time.